Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different than our typical episode. This is actually a recorded call from an expert presentation within the RAL Room Assisted Living Mastermind. If you are not yet in the RAL Room, it's the place to be. And you can book a free discovery call by clicking the link below in our bio. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode, which is incredibly important because everybody listening to this podcast at some point will need to think or learn how they can tap in to investment funds, how they can raise capital for their deals. Because if you're growing and you're scaling appropriately, you will run out of capital. So this episode is with Kaaren Hall, who is the CEO of UDirect IRA Services, talking about how you can tap into a 40 trillion, that's right, $1 trillion pool of investment funds for your next residential assisted living deal. So go ahead and check out this episode. And if you learned something from this, do us a favor and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Take care.
Welcome to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlau. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
So maybe I will start with the PowerPoint, and then I would love for everyone to pipe in with your questions as we go forward. And since you mentioned, Luke, that everyone is a fundraiser, this is so perfect. This is a presentation I gave at BPCon a couple years ago. And so a lot of people, obviously, BiggerPockets, if you don't know it, BiggerPockets.com, it's a 3 million person strong community of real estate investors. And I love that you're investing in residential assisted living. With the silver tsunami, I don't have to tell you how great this is and what your audience is. I know you already know that, but I'll tell you how to raise money for it. So a little bit about me. My background is that I have been in real estate a very long time. I started in my 20s as a property manager, and for a year I was a real estate agent. I have real estate licenses in Washington, Texas, and California, or I have had them, even a life and health license. I spent a lot of time in loan servicing. We called it cleaning up after the elephant, after the loan officers made the loan. Then people would call, what is this? And so then originating the loans. And that was extremely educational. I am a real estate investor. I need to change this slide because I've been in the industry for 18 years now, the self-directed industry. Obviously, I started when I was 7, right? And I also serve on the board of directors for the Retirement Industry Trust Association. And what's so great about that is that it's a industry of self-directed IRA companies. And what we do is just take head on the challenges that face our industry. Like the Big Beautiful Act came up with some great stuff. During a different administration, we had the Build Back Better Act, and that almost decimated self-directed IRAs, but we lobbied against it. So it's really an honor to serve on that board and have a difference. But before I did all these things, I was a radio announcer. And so all my skills, here I'm talking to you on a microphone, but I used to do like smooth jazz, 107.5, The Oasis, like that.
I can still hear it in your voice.
Yeah. So that was my first job. And actually, where you see me here was on KZOK in Seattle. And I was on the air from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I followed Jimmy Kimmel every day. So there you go. He's exactly the same guy now as he was then.
That's awesome.
There you go. That's me. So let's talk about raising some money. There is this gigantic pool of money to dip into, when you're raising capital with retirement accounts. So if you look at this, you can see that, let's see, Charlie is sharing something with me, but I'll get to that in a minute. Oh, yes, I definitely can talk to you about that. But there's a giant pool of money. It's 16.4 trillion in IRAs. It's 401ks, it's pensions and defined benefit plans, annuities. Altogether, the American retirement pool is right around 40 trillion. I definitely know what you're asking about here, and I know quite a bit about it, actually. So yes, part of the Big Beautiful Act, I'm happy to digress right now, is talking about adding alternatives to the 401k plans. And I think it's wonderful. It'll be great for investors and savers. I think it will be great for the self-directed industry and great for you raising capital, because what is so positive about it is that it's going to raise awareness that you don't have to just invest in a mutual fund. You can invest in somebody's residential assisted living project with your retirement. So it's going to create a greater awareness of alternative assets. So that's really great. But with that big, beautiful act, don't expect anything soon. I think this is going to move at the speed of government. And I guess, Luke, you know what that's about, right? What I'm saying is that the Department of Labor has come out, and what they're saying is that they want to do a 180-day discovery period about the fiduciary duty and what that's going to look like for 401k plan sponsors. When you sponsor a 401k for your company, you have a fiduciary duty as, say, the business owner, to make sure that there are reasonably safe assets in the plan. And that's crazy because you have no control over investing. So the Department of Labor will do this 180-day review. Is that 6 months? I think it is. And so we'll see how that goes. And so it's not going to change immediately. But what it will do is allow these plans to invest. They'll be the accredited investor investing in alternative assets. Because a lot of times when you invest in an alternative asset, you have to be accredited. But maybe somebody working at Home Depot isn't an accredited investor, but their 401k can still offer them alternative assets. And that will be because the plan itself is going to be considered the alternative or the accredited investor. And then the participant can go ahead and invest in that mutual fund of alternatives. So there's some homework to be done. So I hope that answers your question. Who asked that? Charlie, did that cover it? Are we all good? All right.
Yeah,
So
I had no idea that investing from an IRA counts as accredited when they otherwise may not.
it doesn't. What
doesn't.
counts?
Okay.
No. The only thing that counts to your accreditation is really your income. It's your net worth and your income. And sometimes it can be like one or the other, as long as your income is X or you've got X net worth, not including your primary residence. So having a self-directed IRA doesn't mean you're accredited, but sometimes with the self-directed IRA, if you wish to take that and invest in a project like you have, say it's like a Reg D offering or something that you've got to raise capital for your residential assisted living, you pretty much have to be accredited a lot of times to invest in those private placements. And so a lot of times IRA investors do have to be accredited to invest there. But with this new situation, it will be the plan that will be considered the accredited investor, not the participant. And that is news of things to come. That's the distant thunder of what may happen.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it? The whole thing's so fascinating. And I'm really excited. It's so beneficial. So as a capital raiser, you guys are great because you're doing such good things. First off, obviously you've got a profit motive. You've got a goal that you wish to improve your own situation. But first off, you're building these buildings, which will hopefully, and I can imagine they would only improve the neighborhood that these buildings are in. So you improve the neighborhood. Residential assisted living, you're going to be improving the lifestyle for seniors. That's amazing. You're going to be hopefully profiting from this and improving your own bank account, but you're also going to be helping and improving the situation for retirement investors who invest with you. So it's a huge win. When it goes well, it's a huge win for everybody. And that is the problem that you solve, that you are solving this giant problem of people not being prepared to retire. Now, a lot of people have not heard about self-directed IRAs, although this year is the 50th year. It's the 50th birthday of the IRA. It was the ERISA Act was passed in 1975. And so it's 50 years old. I was Gerald Ford. That's how long ago it was. All right. So it's not new. And you've been able to self-direct your IRAs for that long, but it's not really at the top of everyone's mind because the regular brokerage houses, the Fidelity, the Charles Schwab, the Northwestern Mutual, they're all guiding you toward stock market related correlated assets. So that's pretty much why people don't really know about this. But after we're done talking here, you will. And be sure and keep throwing in your questions. They're awesome. So an IRA, like I said, it was created 50 years ago. It's just one thing. An IRA is an IRA. It's an account. It's a bucket that holds assets. Now, a typical IRA, the assets are going to be market correlated, stock market correlated, like the stocks themselves or mutual funds or something. With a self-directed IRA, now those assets are called alternative because they're an alternative to stock market-based assets. So it's residential assisted living, yay, self-storage, precious metals, cryptocurrency. Anybody hear about that? That's our second biggest asset class these days. It's very popular. A lot of people want to get in, still try to get in on the ground level on that one. Just so many different assets you can invest in. Raw land, for example, all these different assets, your IRA, your self-directed account can invest in. But the IRS has rules, right? When you invest, the benefit that you get is number one, saving for retirement when you're the account holder. This is the account holder's benefit. But you get that benefit. You also get tax benefit because the proceeds aren't immediately taxable. Okay. So either it's a Roth IRA where it can be tax-free or like a traditional IRA where it's tax deferred. So when the IRS, when they came up with these rules and they came up with the IRS, they said, this is so genius. An IRA can't invest in only two things, life insurance contracts and collectibles. And like everything else is okay. But there's still the barrier of the custodian themselves. Like the custodian can decide, the self-directed IRA custodian can decide which assets they choose to custody. And so, for example, you can technically invest in a racehorse with your IRA because that is an asset, okay? But a lot of custodians won't custody that asset. They say it's not administratively feasible. So we're just getting a little nerdy about the rules, a little technical, but it's interesting. So the two things you can't invest in, life insurance contracts and collectibles, no coin collections or collectible cars or anything. So these rules are written down, as you would imagine, super easy to read, irs.gov publication 590, really covers everything for the traditional and Roths. And that's broken up into 590A and 590B. A 590B talks about how the money comes out, and 590A really how the money goes in. Just a really great resource, easy to read, just written for the layperson, and I just love it. Okay, so am I still sharing? Yes, I am. Let's see. I changed things. Here we go. All right. So what's disallowed? These rules are called prohibited transactions. Some things you can do and some things you can't do. I think of the self-directed IRA game as a game of keep away. And if you keep away from prohibited transactions, then you'll win the game. And these are not intuitive. You wouldn't imagine that these would be the rules. So I'll just go over them with you. First off, you have to stay away from disallowed people. And who are they? It's your ascendants and descendants, your parents and grandparents and their spouses, you and your spouse, and your children and your grandchildren and their spouses, plus a 50-50 business partner or somebody offering services to the plan is going to be disallowed to the IRA. All right. So those are the people you don't deal with. A fiduciary is disallowed. So what you don't do is you don't personally borrow money from an IRA. You can borrow money from a solo 401k. That can be self-directed, but an IRA, you don't borrow money from that. You don't sell anything you already own to your self-directed account. And this is something we get all the time. Hey, Kaaren, I've got this rental property. Can I put that in my self-directed IRA? No. The IRS says you can only contribute cash and not assets. So that's good to know. And a retirement account is not security for a loan. It's not collateral. Even though when we buy a house and we put down our retirement information on a 1040, they just want to know if we have a piggy bank to break in a worst case scenario, but it's not collateral. And when you're investing in self-directing, you don't buy any asset for personal use because, again, prohibited transactions, things stay arm's length. The benefit of the IRA is all about saving for retirement, right? That's the benefit. That's the purpose. That's why the government offers you with this massive tax break, so that you will have your own retirement nest egg and won't rely on the system later in life. So just remember that nothing in your IRA is for personal use. You really need to stay arm's length. Okay. And let's go here. So to move forward, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and reshare. Okay. And okay. There we go. There's my hand. Stop and think before you invest. Now, at UDirect, what we offer is a 20-minute free consultation. So if you have an asset that you wish to invest in, or you're raising capital and you want to, if you've got questions for your investors, call us. We would love to talk to you and set you straight. Can my investor do this? So you've got a residential assisted living facility, you're raising capital for it, and you as a general partner, can you take your IRA and invest in your deal? What do you think? Anybody want to put the answer in the chat? What do you think? Can your IRA as a general partner invest in your deal? Anybody want to,
Nope.
a brave person want to take a stab? No. Luke, Pedro, you're straight up right. And a lot of GPs don't get this, but I'll tell you what, if you did, you would be breaking two of these prohibited transaction rules. Number one, you're not allowed to benefit from the IRA, and as the GP, you're going to earn money from that. So you'd be having personal benefit receiving it. And you're a disallowed person to your IRA, and you would be providing services to the plan. So it would be 2 counts of a prohibited transaction. So what is a prohibited transaction? It just doesn't sound very bad. It sounds like a little slap on the wrist, right? It's, oh, you're naughty and don't do that. It's not like that. An IRA is a tax protected bubble. If your IRA, and if you commit a prohibited transaction in the IRA, that bubble bursts, those dollars become taxable to you, possibly back to the date of the infraction, and very likely with penalties. So you really want to know these rules. And if you don't know them, you could talk to me. We can go through the book. I can chat with you. You can chat to my staff. We have a great staff of highly trained people. So we can certainly discuss prohibited transactions with you. But the onus is on the account holder not to commit a prohibited transaction. It's self-directed. So you do need to educate yourself and understand what you're doing as the account holder. But of course, we're here to help. All right. Now, I love this. Retirement can be a reward for saving and investing, or it can be a punishment for not doing so. And this is what you can tell your investors. Some people feel that they're very secure when they have a lot of cash, but there's another thought, another mindset where you don't want those dollars just sitting there. You want them working for you and building and creating future wealth. So that's what self-directed IRAs help people do. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that part of my background is mortgage lending, and I did that for, 16 years altogether. And I was surprised to learn that a bank would actually lend an IRA account large sums of money, but that is true. It's called a non-recourse loan. It's a commercial kind of a loan, not a Fannie Freddie kind of FHA, VA loan. It's not that kind. It's a commercial loan made to the IRA account. So your FICO score isn't a factor. Your income isn't a factor. What they're really looking at is the property, its location and its condition. But basically, they really want to see the cash flow. They want to see rental comps and your prospectus. What do you anticipate? What kind of market research have you done? And what will the cash flow be on that building? Now, if your IRA defaults, that lender can only claim the subject property, not going after you. They can't go after you. And they can't go after other assets in your IRA. That's pretty cool. Now, of course, the rates are a little higher. And the non-recourse lender can be an elusive thing. So we do have a list of non-recourse lenders. Happy to send it to you. Here, let me throw this in the chat, that you could email me at, I'll throw my info at UDirectIRA.com. If you email us there, my staff will send you a list of non-recourse lenders, not companies we endorse, but just to make it easier on you to ask those questions. Your IRA, say, for example, just you as an investor, you're going to invest in this retirement home. And as an investor, maybe you want to take on money to build it. You could definitely do that yourself. Okay. So not a lot of lenders to choose from, a larger down payment required, and you don't personally guarantee the loan. And that's because you would be offering a personal benefit to the plan. So you don't personally guarantee it. That's cool though. We all love leverage, but here you go. When an IRA borrows money, there is a tax. And this is counterintuitive because you think, wait, I thought my IRA was tax-free or tax-deferred. It is income tax free and income tax deferred, but these are different taxes that aren't income taxes. For borrowed money, it's called UDFI, unrelated debt financed income tax. And if your IRA invests in an active business, it's called UBIT, unrelated business income tax. This is a question to ask your tax professionals. When someone's investing, are they investing in the business or are they investing in the structure? Are they a debt partner or an equity partner? Will UBIT be thrown off to the IRA owner? If it's an active business, it's possible. But if an IRA borrows money, then an IRA will pay the UDFI tax. And you can read about these taxes also on irs.gov. It's publication 598. So you can read about them. And the good thing to do always is to have a competent tax professional, have this conversation with them and get their opinion and their advice. Okay. Now, when an IRA owns an asset, all the expenses of those assets have to be paid for by the IRA. And we've seen that, I think, there was a time when people were buying properties like right after the Great Recession because there was a massive sale on real estate. So all those rehab costs, the property tax, everything, all those expenses had to be paid for by the IRA. More recently, in 2022, we all know the rates just got jacked up and literally. And this created a situation for capital raisers, especially people that had private placements, that had syndications. If they had to restructure their debt, then it meant a capital call to their IRA investors. That capital call meant that the IRA investor had to come in with more money, and that money had to come from retirement funds. So it's always a good idea for the IRA investor to have a pool of idle cash to cover these kinds of expenses. Say, for example, the asset is a note and not a building. If the borrower doesn't pay, then you need some loan servicing. And so then the IRA would pay a loan servicer, maybe a collection person or something. So all different assets can have different expenses, but your IRA needs to pay those assets. Now, if the IRA doesn't have the money, here's a list of ways to come up with the cash. You could contribute, you could liquidate other assets, bring in a debt partner, or if your IRA simply cannot keep up with the expenses, you could liquidate or sell that asset. Okay, that's what you could do. But again, you never pay those expenses out of pocket. That would be a prohibited transaction. Okay, so how do you get an asset in an IRA? And this is for you and your investor. Whether it's real estate or any asset, the first thing to do is open the account and put money in it. So opening an account takes maybe 10, 15 minutes. We have a digital application on our website. And then the next thing to do is fund it by rolling over like your old TSP or transferring an IRA or making a contribution from your personal bank account. So it's open, there's money in it, then you find your asset. The IRA is the investor, and that is the name on the contract. It's not you. Sometimes it's the custodian for the benefit of the IRA. There are different titlings, but the IRA is the investor. And most importantly, because the IRA is the investor, the proceeds go back to the IRA, not to you as an individual. All right, that's important. So the IRA holder will give us a direction letter and say, it's just a sheet of paper, or it's a form online saying, here's what I want to invest in, this many dollars, check or wire or ACH, and giving us permission. It's like writing a check, but it's called a direction of investment. All right. And you give us the supporting documentation, which is a contract. So when it's real estate, we wire the money, you fund, you record, you get your keys.
Sorry to interrupt this episode, but let's be honest. Most real estate investing right now, it's either buy a fourplex or try Airbnb and hope for the best.
Yeah, we're not here for that.
We're here to show you what we believe is the most overlooked high cash flow real estate strategy in the game right now. You guessed it, residential assisted living. It's literally the one place in real estate where you can net six figures on a single home and feel like a decent human being at the same time. You're helping sweet old ladies eat pancakes and play bingo and live longer through better care. You tell me what's better than that.
So we're hosting a free live webinar called How You Can Create Financial Freedom with Residential Assisted Living. No fluff, just value. And it's happening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 Mountain Time. No excuses. It's online. Put on sweatpants. We won't judge.
We'll break down why residential assisted living is the best opportunity right now, the 5 steps to take down your first home, and how to set up a business that makes a real impact and real money.
Spots are limited, so don't be that person who DMs us in 3 months saying, wait, is it too late to start?
So hit up theralroom.com/webinar and register now.
Be the hero your grandma already thinks that you are.
We'll see you there. Pancakes not included.
The tenants move in, they make their checks payable to the IRA. If it's going to be like a syndication or a capital raise, your investor is going to be investing with you. You're going to make those checks payable to the IRA, and that's how that will work. I'm going to skip this example for the sake of time, and it doesn't really apply here. But there is another tool that an IRA holder can use, and that's often called the checkbook IRA. What it really is more, I guess it's better to say the IRA owned LLC, because it's not a gift with purchase. When you open a self-directed IRA, you don't automatically get one of these. What this is, it's an asset. It's another asset in your IRA. You have a third party create a special purpose LLC. Your IRA buys the initial assets of that LLC. So now there's the IRA that owns the LLC. The LLC has a checking account, and then you give us a direction of investment letter. You say, hey, invest in this LLC. We will send the money from your IRA to that checking account. And now you have unsupervised use of your IRA funds to invest as you see fit. But understand that's low-hanging fruit for an audit. And it's very easy to commit a prohibited transaction if it's not what you do for a living. But it is something you can have. Like, with great power comes great responsibility. Of course, we're always here to answer your questions. Now, Doug says, is that similar to Rob's? It is not similar to Rob's. In fact, if you go to my website, irs.gov, and you look up our blog, I just wrote an article about the Rob's model. Rob's is an acronym for Rollover Business Startup, and that is you do it for different reasons. It's a different structure, and it sounds real good. I haven't seen a lot of them completed successfully. I'll just say that. People may start that way, but they usually don't finish that way. Maybe a way to get a business off the ground, but it's not a checkbook IRA. It's different. Okay. And then moving forward here, we call these things self-directed IRAs, right? But it's so much more. Yes, it's the traditional Roth, SEP, simple, spousal, inherited IRA, but it's also the solo 401k. It's also an inherited IRA. It could be also a health savings account. So you work somewhere, you've got an HSA, kind of an insurance plan, and you can have this, or you've got a high deductible health plan, you can have an HSA that is a companion to that. So all these are self-directable, not just like a traditional IRA. All these accounts can be self-directed. And there we go. So we're talked about the checkbook IRA already. And if your funds are with your current employer, like Luke was saying his are, you really can't roll those over until you leave the service of that employer, right? But with 401ks, you might be able to move that money early. If you go to the plan administrator, talk to them, say, hey, do I qualify for an in-service transfer? I'm working here. I'm in service of the company. Can I just move some or all of that to an IRA? It might be, they may say yes. The answer might be yes, but you can ask. Otherwise, you have to wait until you leave the employer to use your 401k money to self-direct. So 403B, 457, TSP, 401k, all those employer plans. But usually it's a 401k that offers the in-service transfer. Now, I think the most important part about self-directing, aside from how long does it take, what does it cost, and all those kinds of things, is forget about all that until you understand your asset class. Now, I assume the people on this call do, from what Luke was telling me, but understand your asset class. It's extremely important. And also understand, if you're investing with a person, who you're investing with, what their reputation is. Talk to people they've invested with before. Google them online. And if it's a SEC kind of an investment, like a syndication, you can go to BrokerCheck and perhaps find some information there. So always do your due diligence first. Find your asset and then self-direct. That makes a lot of sense, because if you lose money, just a lot of people found out about this for stock market assets during the Great Recession. When they lost money, they lost it. There was no write-off for funds lost in a retirement account. So the number one thing you do with a self-directed IRA account is you do your homework and your due diligence. And I have so much information on that. And I do a lot of podcasts and teaching sessions about doing due diligence, but that's incredibly important. Okay. So self-directing, it's easy. Once you've done your due diligence, it's open, fund, invest. Open an account, get the money in there, choose your asset, make sure it's titled in the name of the IRA, invest. We send the money into that asset or to that asset sponsor, and then the proceeds go back in the IRA that owns that asset. And there you go. So you open, fund, invest. That's how it works. And there you go. This is me after 4 hours of hair and makeup. So I just thought I would show you, not 5 o'clock after a work day. But here is my email address, info@udirectira.com. And we just have so much data to share with you, and very happy to do that. Any questions? Hopefully this sparked your curiosity and gave you some ideas about how you can use this to build your own empire there. Charlie?
Yeah, I find this kind of stuff fascinating, even though I know a lot of people think these topics and cost segregations and stuff like that's boring. But to me, it's, oh man, there's so many tools in the tool set to go out and invest. And this is just another one. Or in our case, in most cases here, it's to pull money, right? So how do we walk our investors through using this? And I think one of the best ways would be, hey, schedule a call with you.
Yes.
But one of the biggest, I think, issues we've had when raising, and folks do have funds in a SDRA, is the timeline. And my guess is that most of these folks haven't actually funded their IRA, and that's the issue. But can you talk to generally what the timeline looks like and how those of us who are raising money can get ahead of that with investors?
I founded UDirect IRA Services. I came from the mortgage industry, residential lending. So I know one thing that was always important to me is that things are done quickly. And we do things very quickly. But the thing of it is we don't have control over how fast a custodian is going to move the money. And so we have to wait for a custodian. But now that IRAs have been around 50 years, custodians like Fidelity and the custodians that may be transferring the money, they understand the speed. So an IRA will transfer very quickly, a week tops. But a 401k and employer plan, you're probably going to have to wait 2 weeks. So it's good to prep that ahead of time. We have no control over how quickly the money gets to us. With an IRA, if it needs to be now, that account holder can simply take personal possession of the money and send it over and then put the money back in a retirement account. As long as the money goes back in within 60 days, it's not taxable to you. You can do that once in a 12-month period. So if it's a blazing hurry, you can do that. But as far as processing things, getting them queued up and actually getting the money, once we have it, getting it out to you, we're very quick. We have a very 24, 48-hour turnaround for the cash. And that's, I know, faster than most of our competitors because people want their money. Okay, and hopefully that answered your question, Charlie. Oh, I got a cornucopia of happiness. So good.
Yeah.
Hey, Pedro, what's your question? I see you up there.
Yes, I saw you quickly went through the slide where you talked about the UBIT and the UDFI. I do have a self-directed IRA with checkbook control.
Okay.
For that reason, I myself, looking at how I'm bringing investors, I'm concerned of investing into this type of model for those two reasons. Because one is we are using leverage, an SBA loan, and two, whenever we do give profit sharing, so it falls under business. Even though when I was doing this, I said, okay, the profit sharing will be a lease, but according to what I read in the IRS, since it's a percentage, not a fixed fee, it sometimes may not fly as a passive, but more as ordinary income. And I know you mentioned these are questions for the accountants, but I've been asking the accountants. I have not gotten a clear direction. That's why I'm concerned to push it to the investors and say, use your direct IRA, because now I'm not confident myself to do it because of these two reasons. Do you have any experience on that?
I have 20 years of experience with that. Yeah. So here we go. I can't give you tax advice. I'm throwing up my CPA there, Amanda Hahn, Keystone CPA. She is a large firm and she's done my taxes for, I think, 18 years. She's very good at this. And we used to open our offices at the same time in the same executive suite, way back in the day. But to answer your question, if your deal has leverage in it and you've got someone who's an equity investor in your deal, and then you're paying them gains or proceeds, some of those gains and proceeds are most likely acquired because of leverage and will lead to the UDFI tax. But as far as the rest, you really do need to get tax advice on that, because what you're going to be doing, what I'm saying now, is the advice you're going to be giving to your investor, and you want to have that like notarized, right? So that you know it's right. But it's true that when your IRA earns money from an active business, that will trigger the UBIT tax. UBIT and UDFI are like twin taxes because the rate is the same, but the structure of the taxes are different. So I would reach out to Keystone.
Okay. And then another question is, you mentioned not being able to lend out to family. I understand all that. But the business partner, are limited partners passive? Are they also considered business partners?
Mhm.
Because one of my currents will become limited partners. I do private lending to her, and I've been doing this for several years, but now she's going to join in as a limited partner. Am I now prohibited from continuing to give her private loans?
I hear what you're saying. So first off, is she going to be a 50-50 partner?
No.
Okay. So then that doesn't make her disqualified. If she was a 50-50 business partner, that would make her a disallowed person.
Thank you.
But if you're lending to her and she's lending to you, what the IRS might say is that's quid pro quo and you're receiving personal benefit. So you might want to be careful, like you're lending to her, she's lending to you. This kind of thing might not fly if you got into a super detailed audit. So just food for thought.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we had one more. Anybody else with a question? I'd love to answer.
I know Doug had one.
Yeah, Doug, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think you already touched on it. So in the last one. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. I think investing in alternative assets can be rewarding for our account holders. We see a lot of people after 20 years, I've seen a lot of people do quite well. It's always about choosing the right asset, and you guys are providing the right asset. There's so many great things about the asset class that you guys are offering to investors because of, again, the multiple benefits. As long as things go well, and there are always problems. There's always a black swan you didn't expect, but I assume as good asset sponsors, you're anticipating the risks and just trying to make accounting for that, have a hedge against that kind of a problem. But yeah, so it's a great way to have an alternative. In fact, it's such a great idea to invest in alternative assets. This is why Trump wants all of America to be able to invest in alternatives and have the same opportunity as the ultra wealthy who can invest in large buildings. Just somebody working at Home Depot can also have the exact same opportunity. So it's more equality for people to invest.
Yeah, with that, Kaaren, do you think that opening it up to everyone is going to muddy the waters a bit on not so much on the clientele that are investing into alternatives, but on the people who are offering the alternative assets themselves? Do you think that there's going to be a muddying of the quality of the people who are offering like deals that could be opened up because now there's this influx of money into the space?
Maybe, but I don't think so, because I think that with this switch and with this addition will come more supervision. I know that, like, already the DOL says, put on the brake, hold your horses there, guys. 180 days, we're going to review this. There'll be more oversight. But what did they ask Dillinger? Why do you rob banks? And he says, because that's where the money is. Same thing with self-directed IRAs. You're right. If money is somewhere, somebody's going to try to grab it and steal it. So you can't get away from wrongdoers, bad actors, we call them. I'm sure that will be there, but I think that adding these to 401k plans, there'll be a lot more oversight. And 401k plans already have a lot of oversight. So I don't think there'll be a tremendous amount of increased activity like that.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to make you look into a crystal ball a little bit, but
No, but that's true based on what I know. And also the way they're going to be packaging these assets and how they're going to need to be reviewed, and they'll be bundled almost like mutual funds. So
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah. Another thing that you brought up was you can invest in racehorses because they're assets.
Yes.
I didn't realize just in the list that you had showed all the different types of alternatives that are available. I guess the first part of my question is, what's the most popular for people who go through UDirect? And then I guess a more fun question would be, what's the most interesting alternative that you've helped someone invest into?
Okay. The number one asset class is private equity. It's the subscription agreement, the syndication. It's a lot of words for the same thing, like a Reg A, B, C, or D offering. That is the number one asset class for the self-directed industry. Number two right now is cryptocurrency because it's just new, it's hot, and people are really getting into it. But then the third would be notes, where people are taking their retirement accounts and lending it to maybe, for example, somebody like you who's building a residential assisted living building as a loan and not an equity partner, as a debt partner. So that's the third most popular asset. Now, I got asked this question, like, what's the most creative investment I've ever seen? I was on a podcast recently, it was in May, and I told a story about something that happened when I used to work for another self-directed IRA company before I opened UDirect. And that was a young man who took his Roth and invested in Super Bowl tickets. Okay. Yeah. So back in the day, the way tickets were handled was different. I incorrectly said that a lease was real estate. It's not, but he was able to invest in these tickets. It wasn't considered like a trader business because it was just a one-time deal. It wasn't a recurring trader business, so that was okay. They weren't collectibles because some tickets are collectibles, and then you want to save them forever. These were regular tickets, so they weren't collectibles, and it wasn't a prohibited transaction. So his Roth bought the tickets. He did not attend the game, so it wasn't personal use. He had no personal use of the tickets, but he bought them as an asset and sold them at a profit, right? Yeah, it is. So this podcast right now, there's a reel about me talking about this, has 3.5 or 3.7 million views. And this lady's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And here are all the reasons why you can't do that, and address them. So I thought I better write a blog article. So I did. There's a blog article that explains how he did it and why, and discussed it with my peers just to double check. And yeah, and that's what happened. And it
Wow.
used to be when I very first got into self-directed IRAs 20 years ago, where we're not a highly regulated industry because we are not recommending assets. We are more regulated. There's more onus on us to do a better job. But at the time, 20 or so years ago, it's just, hey, it's self-directed. They can invest in whatever they want. It's their problem. We're not, yeah, maybe we're a custodian. I don't care. They can do whatever they want, and it's on them. And if they get in trouble, they get in trouble. It's like the bank. If you put money in the bank, and whatever you do with it is your business. But as we go forward, regulators are saying, yeah, no, you have to be a little more responsible than that. If you see something and there's a problem with it, you need to say, if you see something, you need to say something, kind of thing. And we're more accountable now. So an asset like that may not fly. And by the way, a custodian can choose, again, to say what is and is not what we call administratively feasible, something that, like an asset that they wish to hold. So maybe not every custodian would want Super Bowl tickets or to have those as assets. So you have to find first a custodian that would custody that asset.
That's awesome. I love the outside the box. Now my wheels are turning. So the debt fund, the third way, I know you hit on taxes, but if you invest in a debt fund or you lend to someone, I have never liked that asset class because now I'm getting taxed on the interest that I'm earning as the debt investor, so to speak, or the lender. You're in a self-directed IRA, though the taxes are not the same.
Yeah, it's not taxed. It's in a tax protected bubble. And so with the traditional IRA, you're going to pay the tax when you take it out. You can always have the money before you turn 59 and a half, or after. If it's before, there's a penalty. If it's after, you're going to pay your regular income tax rate. If it's a Roth IRA and you meet two criteria, which is being 59 and a half and having a Roth account for at least 5 years, that money comes out tax-free. So that's how that works. So the Roth it's the brass ring of the industry. I threw our fees up there because Pedro was asking. Yes, we have a flat fee, a $275 flat fee, regardless of the number of assets, regardless of their value.
Wow, that is much less than I was expecting.
Yeah. I mean, I have never changed the fee. And that is one of our unique selling propositions, right? Is that our fees are great. We have great fees and service. And that's our strength. And that's what people care about, is not being feed to death. So you keep more of what you earn, and having things done quickly and efficiently. And also we answer the phone. I'll tell you, you're not going to get an AI bot you're going to speak to a human being. And by the way, if you want more information, I threw up a link to a free report that breaks down self-directed IRA investing and the various asset classes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, you're welcome, Kaylin. Yeah, it's mind blowing that you have all this power. And then you start going to real estate investment clubs, or maybe you join BiggerPockets, or you get involved in a group like you have here, Luke, and think, wow, how do I invest? How do I get a part of this? And you realize, wait, maybe I don't think I have money, but I do. I used to work at this company and I had this money. I can get in this deal. And it really gives you a lot of power. You can really supercharge your retirement this way.
This is awesome. Any final questions before we have about 10 minutes? So I don't want to cut it short, but I also want to respect everyone's time. Anyone have any last
Yeah. If you want to, again, email us, I'll put it in, it's info at let me find it, UDirectIRA.com. And because you know what's going to happen, your head's going to hit the pillow tonight. You won't be able to sleep, and you'll be thinking about all these questions about self-directed IRAs. You won't be able to sleep. So just email us. Hey, I've got this question. I just thought of this, and we'll answer it. Because it's when you really get in the weeds about things that questions do arise. But I've covered it, the general information, but you're not going to memorize it on the first hearing.
This is awesome, Kaaren. Thank you for all the resources. Thank you for the opportunity to find out more about what you're doing. I'm shocked at that price. I think that's an amazing price for the ability to get into these alternative assets. And it is, for everyone on the call, your wheels should be turning about how you can educate people on what you just learned as potential investors and what you're doing, and how you get them in touch with Kaaren or into this space so that you can.
I have something to add. This is a qualifying question when you're talking to a potential investor. Okay. And this is what you want. Like, they say, wow, this sounds great. I really wish I had the money to invest with you. Or, oh gosh, my car needs new tires or something. I can't do this. Otherwise, I'd love to invest with you. You just say this. Do you have an IRA, or do you have 401k with a previous employer or a previous employer plan? That's it. They say yes. Then you'll say, did you know that you can invest those dollars in my deal? And they'll like, no, I had no idea. That's the qualifying question.
Yeah, that's a question I should have asked, and you answered it. Is there any other like tee-ups that you can tell us to help us think about that?
By the way, yes, we do offer checkbook control, Pedro, just so you know. We do allow people to have the IRA-owned LLC. But it's not difficult. When you're asking for money, you're asking for money. But what people will invest with people they like and trust. So what you really need to focus on is being the person they like and trust. And explain the deal clearly so that it doesn't look confusing. Spreadsheets, I think a lot of you are good spreadsheet guys and women and know how to explain things simply, because these things aren't that complicated, essentially. Yeah. Building a building can be complicated, but it's okay. There's money, you build a building, there's profit. And then there are the details.
Yeah, and trust. That's huge. And if you're able to connect with them on a human level and you establish trust, that opens the door. And then obviously it's communication, but it's really, if you're never able to communicate the opportunity, then they're never even going to know about it, which could be a miss out for you and a miss out for them.
Yeah, and you don't have to be an expert at self-directed IRAs. You can say, hey, I heard Kaaren on a webcast, and here's the email, and let's set it up, because we have another link that I can share with you here. Let me find this. And this is directly to our calendar, so that what you can do is schedule a consultation like at your own convenience. So here is a link to get on our calendar. And you can give this to your investor and say, look, if you want to know more, here's the link, schedule an appointment. You'll have a free consultation with a self-directed IRA expert who will talk to you and answer all your questions and let you know if you can go forward.
Awesome. Sorry, I was copying that into my notes. That's amazing. I think that's a great place to stop. Kaaren, thank you for all this great information. I'm definitely going to read your book. I'm definitely going to stay in touch and might be reaching out to you about a SDIRA myself here in the near future. And hopefully I'll be pointing a lot of investors to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And thanks for everybody that spent your evening here with us tonight. This is wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is the RAL Room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks. And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey. Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.